As I thought about my remarks this morning, all I could see were my children, my 8-year-old son and my 11-year-old daughter, and the wondering of what does all of this look like through their eyes. I see their beauty and innocence, their intellect and brilliance, and I wonder how and when the world will snatch that away from them. And then my head begins to spin. I'm not just a mom, I've devoted my life and career to children, and I'm always palpably aware of their presence. I know they are watching what we do and what we don't do.
Just powerful words there from Kali Thorne Ladd, an event put on by Mayor Wheeler on Saturday. She was talking about her own children, but she has a lot of kids on her mind right now. She's the executive director of KairosPDX Learning Academy. Now, it's a public charter school, and their mission is closing opportunity and achievement gaps for children of color. And they do that in part by teaching a curriculum that emphasizes their culture and identity. I talked with her today about how we can teach this to all of our kids. How do you suggest, or do you have any advice for parents right now watching who want to talk to their kids, about race? What would you say to them?
Well, wow. I cannot say I can advise all parents on how to talk to your children about race. I think it's important to talk to your children about race. I think there is a fear. Children notice difference, but they are not born racist. And so acknowledging differences, I think sometimes there is a tendency to not want to talk about it, thinking, oh, I don't see color, but every group of people, no matter what race they are, brings something powerful and important to the world. And so denying my Blackness or anybody's race or ethnicity is denying who they are. So I think acknowledging racial differences, I tend to really think it's important to come at an asset-based frame, particularly for young children. So not focusing on just the negative impacts of racism, but focusing on the histories and contributions of people of color from the beginning of the founding of this country. And, I do think it means truth-telling about history and recognizing and calling out the wrongs that were done. And quite frankly, I think for most people of color, there has been a lot of magnanimous posture to forgive and to move forward despite the terrorism and genocide and really terrible things that have happened, I think, to every group of color in this country. I think we can recognize that as a strength in terms of the people of color living through it and contributing and not holding on to it as a place of hatred, but moving beyond it to build coalition and contribute meaningfully to the community. But I think it really differs by age level. And for young children, it's just being affirming and helping them see the beauty of difference and answering questions and being honest. Children want to connect with one another. They're not born to have tension between each other.
I know it's so hard to answer this, but I think it's important to talk about this. How do we ultimately come together and move forward as a community?
Wow. I think we need to listen to one another. We need to build relationship with one another. We need to examine the practices that perpetuate inequity. And at the policy level, at the investment level, we can't do business as usual. There has to be a willingness to change, a recognition of how we've let down communities and not just talk, but truly recognizing and taking action that exemplifies that recognition. And then I think, I said in my talk before, and I would say again, I think we fear what we don't know. And the more we can build relationship with one another and we begin to bridge differences and we begin to build community, I think everybody wants to heal, but it's hard to do that when I don't know, there's false promises being made, and people aren't authentically engaging in true healing. I often look at what happened. I had the opportunity and privilege of living in South Africa for a couple of years, and right after apartheid ended, South Africa has a lot of issues still. But there was an opportunity that Mandela provided for healing. And I think if we have that space to listen to one another and then move forward with true change, I think we begin to be a stronger Portland and a stronger community. And I will say, I think that many people want that. I think there's a question of how. Mm-hmm. And so, talking to people in community, on the ground, working with community, there are many Black own and run organizations, and there are many other culturally specific organizations that are connected with community, know community, and bring value and expertise and wisdom that I think all of us can benefit from. And so I'm optimistic as long as we have open minds and open hearts and a readiness to change. And the one thing I will add, a friend of mine mentioned to me how we have to be comfortable with sometimes being uncomfortable. Like that, we avoid discomfort at the cost of perpetuating inequity and racism, and that doesn't help us at all. So I think being okay with this isn't going to feel good for a little bit, but we're going to get out the other side in a better place.
And thank you, Kali, for talking with us and sharing some of your thoughts. And as we head